Happy to be here. Yeah.
What on earth are you feeling at this moment?
I don't know. I can't. There's no time to process.
And tomorrow going to be a special thing. I think very difficult one. Going to be difficult to handle everything.
I would have been able to play a big player like Madison or like Ostapenko, but I couldn't because I lost the round before.
Alex Eala just walked into the 2026 Miami Open as the number 32 seed, seeded, protected, dangerous. 4 days ago, she was dismantling Coco Gauff at Indian Wells before Linda Noskova handed her a 6-2, 6-0 reality check in the round of 16. But here's what nobody's talking about. Eala is sitting on 390 expiring ranking points, a ticking clock that forces her to semifinal or bust. The WTA gave her Dubai's smallest scheduling slots for months before fans erupted online. Then suddenly, center court, night session, prime time. Coincidence? Perhaps. But Rafael Nadal, the man who built her, has watched every single step of this. The academy that shaped her game, the private message after Miami 2025, the hitting session 1 year after retirement. Nadal doesn't do things quietly. When the machine around his greatest student starts making suspicious moves, you pay attention. Something is being protected here. And it might not be Eala. If this perspective is new to you and you want angles the mainstream coverage won't touch, subscribe right now. Because the scheduling at this tournament, it tells a story the WTA doesn't want told. Let's go. Let's start with the scheduling record because that's where the real story lives. Early 2026. Alex Eala arrives at the Dubai Tennis Championships ranked inside the top 50, coming off a career year that included a WTA final at Eastbourne, a WTA 125 title in Guadalajara, and a year-end ranking of number 50. She is, by virtually every measurable fan metric, the most talked-about player on the women's tour. Filipino supporters are flying internationally to watch her. Venues fill differently when her name is on the order of play. Ticket sales move, social media explodes, and yet, for the first 2 rounds in Dubai, she was not given center court's prime closing slot, the most coveted position in tournament scheduling, reserved for the match the organizers believe will draw the biggest audience. Fans noticed immediately. The backlash online was sharp and it was loud. Tennis communities across social platforms pointed out the obvious contradiction. Here is your most marketable young player, the one filling stadiums, and she's being treated like a mid-draw filler. The Tennis Gazette acknowledged the criticism directly, noting that Eala had often missed out on the main event spot and had been repeatedly scheduled at strange times on smaller courts. That's not fan exaggeration, that's a mainstream tennis publication documenting a pattern. Then quietly things changed. Round 3 in Dubai, center court, night session, closing match. Suddenly the scheduling reflected what the numbers had been screaming for weeks. Eala versus Jasmine Paolini, a top 10 player and 2-time Grand Slam finalist, was given the showcase slot. It was the right call. But the question that lingers is why it took public pressure to get there, and what that pattern of initial resistance actually reflects about how the WTA views Eala's place in the ecosystem. Now here's where the Dubai situation gets genuinely complicated because it's not simply a story of neglect. When the quarterfinal came around, Eala was moved back, this time to open the night session rather than close it, for her match against Coco Gauff. On the surface, this seems like a minor scheduling tweak. In practice, the knock-on effect was significant. Alina Svitolina was scheduled to follow Eala in that session. The problem is straightforward. The overwhelming majority of the crowd was there for the Filipino star. Once Eala's match ended, there was a very real risk of a mass departure before Svitolina stepped on court. Svitolina, a former world number 3 and 4-time WTA 1000 champion, potentially playing in front of a half-empty stadium, not because fans didn't respect her, but because of a scheduling decision that put her in the wrong position, relative to Eala's gravitational pull on the crowd. The reasoning behind the move had some logic attached to it. If Eala closes the session, Filipino fans, a massive, passionate, and dedicated viewership block, would be watching past 1 a.m. local time. Moving her earlier gives millions of people back home a reasonable hour to tune in. That's a legitimate consideration. but the execution was clumsy, and it raises a broader point about whether the WTA has a coherent strategy for managing Eala's popularity or is simply reacting to pressure week by week without a long-term framework. This is the structural problem. Eala is not a conventional star. She doesn't have the ranking pedigree yet to automatically command the best slots. She's still climbing. But she carries audience figures that dwarf players ranked well above her. The tour's scheduling system is built around rankings and seedings, not popularity indices. So a player who is simultaneously ranked number 32 and functionally the most watched woman in the sport creates a genuine administrative tension. That tension has been handled inconsistently, and inconsistency at this level always creates the appearance of something more deliberate, whether or not it actually is. So let's address the harder question directly. Is there evidence the WTA doesn't want Eala to succeed at Miami Open 2026? No. There is no document, no leaked memo, no statement from any official suggesting active sabotage. What there is, however, is a tour structure that seems genuinely unprepared for what she represents. The ranking points system doesn't account for cultural influence. The scheduling framework wasn't built for a player whose fan base spans a nation of 115 million people across a completely different time zone. And the decisions made around her in 2026, Dubai's shifting slots, the inconsistent court assignments, suggest an organization reacting rather than planning. Rafael Nadal sees all of this, and his continued visible investment in Eala's career is not incidental background noise. When he came back to a tennis court 1 year after retirement, it was specifically to hit with her at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca. He posted the session publicly. He tagged her. He told his 14 million followers on X that it felt great to be back. This is a man who spent 22 Grand Slams building one of the most carefully managed public images in sports history. He doesn't make casual gestures. The fact that Eala is the person who brought him back to a court, even informally, says something deliberate about where he places her in the sport's future. His uncle Tony Nadal, who coached Rafael to those 22 major titles and has forgotten more about developing tennis players than most coaches will ever learn, was present in Eala's player box during her Swiatek match at the 2025 Miami Open. Not watching from a television, not offering remote advice. Physically present, courtside, invested. After that run, Tony said plainly that once Eala gets her game fully calibrated, she could rank among the best players in the world. That's not promotional flattery. Tony Nadal does not distribute praise loosely. He said she beat the world number 2 and number 5 in the same tournament and didn't back down at any point. His assessment of her ceiling is genuine. Now translate that Nadal investment into the context of what Miami Open 2026 actually means for Eala's career trajectory. She arrives ranked approximately number 28 in live rankings after earning 120 additional points at Indian Wells this month. She beat Goff at that tournament before Noskova closed the door on her quarterfinal run. That's not a player in bad form. That's a player with one bad day against a very good opponent. The form is there. The confidence, based on her own recent statements, is higher than it has ever been. She told reporters after Indian Wells, "I've grown a lot. I've had so many good matches, so many tough losses, so much experience since then, and that's helped me build confidence, self-esteem, and I know that I belong here." But the 390 ranking points she earned from last year's Miami semi-final expire at this exact tournament. That's the structural trap. If she loses in the early rounds, her total drops sharply, her ranking slides, and the mathematical protection that currently guarantees her entry into WTA 1000 main draws weakens. She currently holds 1,542 total ranking points. A first-round exit in Miami drops that by 390. The ripple effect touches seedings at the French Open, protected entry into the summer hard-court swing, and potentially her positioning heading into Wimbledon. This is not a small number. This is the single most consequential week of her professional career to date, and she knows it. So the scheduling question takes on a different dimension when you hold it against this context. Because if the WTA continues its pattern of mishandling Eala's court placement and time slots, putting her in positions where the crowd dynamics work against her, or where the physical and mental load is higher than it needs to be, then the outcome of that mismanagement, whether intentional or not, is that their most commercially valuable young asset gets undermined at the worst possible moment. There is one genuinely positive signal worth acknowledging. The Miami Open tournament itself, through its official communications, has framed Eala as a marquee attraction for 2026, naming her specifically alongside Sabalenka and Swiatek as a featured storyline. The WTA's own website mirrors that framing. The tournament begins March 17th, the women's final lands on March 28th, and the draw was released on March 15th. The infrastructure of recognition is there. Whether the on-the-ground execution of scheduling matches, that recognition is the question that will answer itself in real time over the next 2 weeks. What Nadal built in Mallorca over 7 years, the footwork, the left-handed forehand, the competitive temperament, the ability to stay in the moment against players ranked 100 spots above her, is about to face its most important test. Not just against the draw, against a system that has demonstrated it doesn't fully know what to do with her yet. The WTA has a player who is growing a global sport in a region it has never successfully penetrated at this scale. The scheduling proves either that they understand that opportunity and are learning to honor it, or that they're willing to let procedural habit override commercial sense at the exact moment it matters most. Eala is ready, the crowd will be there, the points are on the line. Whether the tour gets out of her way is the only remaining variable. If this breakdown gave you something the mainstream coverage didn't, hit that subscribe button right now. We go deeper on every major tournament, every controversial decision, and every story the tour's official channels won't frame this way. Drop your prediction for Eala's Miami run in the comments. We're reading every single one.